Feelings? Okay. I unmuted it. All right. We're going to be vigilant here. Still unmuted. Still muted? All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to probably date myself. This show was made in the late 1990s, which is quite a while ago now. Anybody heard of the West Wing? Yeah, I've heard it. Okay. So they had this episode where they had people who normally didn't get time at the White House to come in to give presentations about things that they care about. In the show, they called it Big Cheese Day. And so what we're going to watch is a presentation made by some cartographers, and they're talking about projections and why they're important. It just really does a nice kind of job of kind of summarizing the bigger context of what we're going to talk about today. All right, so Bluetooth speakers on. Let's see if we can get this to play. Skip verification. Yeah, there should be sound. Why is there no sound? Okay. It's always a gamble with videos. I tell you what. Still no sound. Disconnected. All right, I'm going to test something here. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's try this again. And now, all right. Stop sharing. Ooh. Okay, that's fine. Over here. Okay, getting closer. Thank you for your patience while I All right, that's worth the work. Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. Okay. So what we can take away from that nice little explanation is that, this is a class about mapping for ecology, but I think a lot of we just have to be mindful, right? That if we're trying to compare something in Greenland versus Africa, you have to just thinking about distortions in shape and area, things like that. So it obviously has broader implications for social stuff. Also, I just enjoy that immensely. Okay, so what we're looking at here is an animation of how we can try to basically take, again, something 3D and put it onto a 2D or flat surface. So if we were just to use gravity, this is what the Earth looks like. Not super attractive, is it? It's kind of like a big lump. Okay. So projections fall into 3 different families. There's the cylindrical, the conic, and the azimuthal or plane. So we can take a 3D surface and make it flat by cutting it and folding it out. Okay, so as I've been emphasizing, distortion is unavoidable when we're trying to go from 3D to 2D. And so projections will preserve either the angles of your parallels in your meridians. So your lat and longs will be at right angles. They can preserve the area, or they can preserve the distance. No projection system does this perfectly. You will always have some distortion in one of those 3. So we have to select a projection based on what we're trying to preserve. Our map tells a story, it's a narrative, right? So we need to pick a projected coordinate system that's appropriate for the narrative that we're trying to tell. Okay, so the first family we're gonna look at is cylinders. And here we're maintaining our meridians, and so we're maintaining some angles. So a classic one that we just saw in this clip that may make sense is this Mercator projection. So everything's at a right angle. Okay. The spacing of our parallels lines of latitude increases towards the poles. But then the north-south scalp increases the same rate. So that's why in this particular projection, Greenland it's the same size as Africa, when in fact it is very much not. Okay. Bless you. All right, I just put this here so you have it. Some breath is on my notes. Okay. The second family are conic surfaces. So the meridians are straight lines and the angle between everything is maintained. And so this is what an equidistant conic projection looks like. Here is an equal area conic projection. I actually use this one a lot, Albler's equal area. It seems to work pretty well, particularly for our neck of the woods. So there's a lot for this if I'm trying to maintain areas. The third family is the azimuthal or plane surface. Here we can maintain distances. And we see that the size is not distorted, right? Greenland is a much more appropriate size scale to what Africa is. Okay, so as I said at the start, there are a ton of different options. So how do you know which one? Well, you can choose your family based on what you're trying to preserve. And also there are projection coordinate systems specific to certain areas. For example, many of the states in America have their own projected coordinate system that's designed basically to minimize distortion. It's like zeroed in on that particular section. As if you're trying to basically map a much larger area, like across the world, it gets a little bit harder. And so they have all these other options. And so if you wanted to compare what the world looks like in one projected coordinate system versus another, there's actually a really cool tool online. So we're going to visit that. Okay, I have to stop sharing so that Carlos can see what we're doing. I feel like I need to go over here. Stop share. Share screen. Okay. And this is in the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is a website. So here we have all these different, they have extra families here. So what family they belong in, and then what property you're trying to conserve. So I'm going to uncheck all of these. And let's say we want to do conic and we want to do like equal area. You can hit, there we go. All right, so it's selected these. And so I'm going to select Albers and see. So this is what the Earth looks like under Albers. This is what it looks like if we put the countries on it. And now this is like superimposed. So we can see the difference. The pink is the Albers, and the other one we chose to stab where it looks like a heart is in green. And then here, what these circles are indicating is the level of distortion at different points on the map. So obviously, as we get in the Albers one, as we get closer to the edge, we see that our distortion increases. If it was perfect, the circle would look like a circle. So this is what I mean by like thinking about where your map is at. So for Albers, you really have fairly minimal distortion along this like 30-degree line of altitude. So it's really good for like mid-latitude maps. But as we get further south, it does kind of a poor job. So it probably would be good for like mid-latitudes in the north and the south. There's a little bit distortion here at the equator, but definitely do not be using it for like Antarctica. That's a terrible choice. Okay. All right, let's go pick something else. We'll do azimuthal and equidistant. one choice. Oh, what's this one? All right. Why can't I select anything? There we go. Just took a hot minute. So I like this because ArcMap doesn't give you any information about the properties that are preserved with each one. So this is a little bit of a cheat sheet. When you see something you're not familiar with, you can be like, okay, what does this family plus this property mean? So here we've selected cylindrical and then equidistant. And in this case, things that are preserved pretty well is actually like Antarctica and the North Pole. Everything else is kind of distorted. So if I was going to try to make a map of like Antarctica or like the Bering Sea or something like that, or like the North Pole, I probably would try to select something like this. So a stereographic projection is usually best for that. Okay, so that's that website. All right, going back to the presentation. Okay, so the poles are points, and like you have to just when you're doing global. This is mostly for global things, like if you're making a map like of everything across the world. So like again, you're thinking about, do I want to maintain angles? Do I want to maintain the distance between my latitude and longitude versus having them basically like narrow or widen as I change my latitude or longitude? So in this case, everything is at right angles and the areas are identical. So this would be a projection that would maintain area. So when it says equal area, that means if you drew a circle of 3 inches in diameter, it's going to represent the same amount of space on Earth anywhere on the map, anywhere on the globe. But you're going to lose, like, you're going to have angle distortion. So if I sneak on back here, you see that, like, we start to have angle distortions as we get north Antarctica and up south towards Antarctica and north towards the North Pole. Okay, conformal projections. Angles are correct at small areas. So if you are just trying to plot something for like a very small area, like when I say small, like think like the state of Kansas, right? The parallels and meridians will cross at a right angle. And the distance between 2 points, the distance around a point stays the same, but the distance between points changes because of distortion. So in one, we have true size, but we're changing the shape on the left. On the right, we're preserving the shape, but we're messing with the area. This is a very commonly used projection system for the Earth. You probably have this in all your social studies maps. When we're using an equidistant projection, a straight line, the length, represents the correct distance around the Earth. So there's a lot, I'm giving you guys a lot of information, and this is intended to be a reference rather than you have to worry about having to do this on an exam. Like, I'm not going to ask you to tell me about all the different types of planar projections. That's not very useful. You can look that up. Okay. All right. So the last one I'll talk about is geographic projections. I've mostly used these when I am plotting something towards the poles. Okay, try to bring this home. Again, determine what feature you're trying to preserve. So if you're in the equatorial tropics, think about something in the cylindrical family. If you're at mid-latitudes, consider conic. If you're in the polar regions, think about stereographic or a planar transformation. All right, that's the end. Okay, let us go to our lab now. Okay. Yes. Yeah, if I'm trying to preserve area. Watch your eyes. Let's put the lights on. Oh, so bright. Okay. All right. So last week, we learned how to roughly sketch out a polygon file in R. We're going to repeat that skill today, but in ArcMap as part of this lab. Okay, so in your folder, I realize this is tiny. I'll explain it. You should have 3 files. Alaska, which is an Excel file. Peru _GIS, which is a CSV file, and then 1 shape file. This one. Zoom to layer. Well, here we go. Zoom to layer. Okay. So this is that shapefile. This is a good example. In just a regular geographic coordinate system. So how do I know that? Okay, so you might remember we can learn a lot about the properties of a shapefile by going to its properties. We right click on it, we go to properties. Am I sharing my screen? Probably not. Properties. Okay, so I'm looking at the source tab here. This is where I'm getting a lot of this information. So it is tiny, but if you open that up, you're going to see like where it's saved, what type it is, it's a polygon. And then at the bottom there, it's going to start listing its coordinate systems. So there are two different types of coordinate systems that we use. One is geographic coordinate systems, and the second is the projected coordinate systems. So we've just been talking this morning about the projected ones. What is the difference, you may ask? The difference is that the geographic coordinate systems, the angular unit is in degrees. They do not have linear units, which means you cannot use them to find distances or areas. So if we want to do that, we have to transform shapefiles into a projected coordinate system that has a linear unit that's going to work for your task. So some of them have linear units that are feet. Some of them have linear units that are in meters. Okay. So this is what that same shapefile looks like after it's been, oh, I need to go there. After it's been transformed. Way different, right? It's like reoriented the center point. Okay. So, oh, let me go with the last thing. There's pretty good instructions on how to do the transformations. The other part I'm going to walk you through now that can take a little time is how to make your own shapefiles. That's part of like exercise 2. So this is how do we make our own polygon shapefiles? Okay. So we'll have our catalog open. I'm going to head over to my lab. So I'm just going to navigate to the directory that I want to make this, have the shapefile saved in. I right click on it and I go down to new and I go down to shapefile. All right, so this box is going to pop up. Our goal here is to make this, to use this to measure an area. So I'm just going to call it like new area. You get to pick the type of shapefile it is. We want a polygon. And then you have to choose, you can choose a coordinate system. So here, a good rule of thumb is that, and you're going to see this in your lab, you're going to pick the coordinate system that you had already transformed your point file into. Everything needs to be in the same coordinate system, really, for this to work properly. Okay. So now we open this up and you can, let me show this. So there's 2 parts here, geographic and projected. We're not worried about the geographic ones. And if I scroll down, you can see there's a whole ton of options. So many options. Okay. So I'm going to open up, let's say here, state systems. And you can see, again, there's a super bunch of options, and we're going to have it's going to be like the base, the NAD stands for like the geographic coordinate system that it was based off of. So usually you'll see NAD 1927 or NAD 1983. And then what state, I'm in the state plane, the state systems, what state it's designed for. And then in parentheses, you're going to see the linear unit. So some are in feet and some are in meters. Okay. You can select that. And once you do, you'll see at the bottom, it's going to provide you a bunch of information about this coordinate system. And you'll see that the linear unit is in meters. And then it will also tell you what geographic coordinate system, again, it's based off of. Say, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, but nothing's happened. Here's why. We haven't added any data to it. So how do we add data to this? All right, so we add data to our MP shapefile by editing it. So I'm going to go up to editor here. This is a toolbar. Let's see if I can hide this. Can I hide this? Yes. Thank you. If you don't have the editor toolbar, you can go to the customize menu up here at the top. Go to toolbars, and then you can add it. Editor is here. Okay. So once you click editor, you're going to say, I want to start editing the shapefile. Cool. It's going to come up with this dialog box and a warning, probably, it always does to me, that you have shapefiles that are like all in all different coordinate systems. It doesn't like to edit things. It's just like, hey, just be aware. It's fine. You can just ignore that. So, okay, continue. So we have this box that pops up. It's called Create Features, and it's going to list all your shapefiles. Okay, so we want to edit the new area shapefile. So I highlight it, I click on it, and then I want to make it a polygon. So I'm selecting polygon here from our construction tools box. Okay. Turn this back on. Okay, I've just zoomed into these points. Polygon. All right, so now a bunch of things are highlighted here in my editor toolbar. You see where my cursor is at here to the right of editor. And this icon with a red and green box connected by a line is highlighted. So this is a tool that's going to allow us to basically start drawing line segments around. So when I move my cursor over into my map, you see that it's no longer an arrow, it's little crosshairs. So I click with my mouse, and there's this thing called snapping, where it's going to like kind of snap over to like an existing spatial data. I was like, ooh, you want me to go over here? So I'm going to click on this once, and you're going to see it go red. That means it's activated. And so now that it's activated, you see that when I pull my cursor away from that, I have a line that comes out. So if I want to draw a polygon around these points, I just basically draw my line. And every time I want to basically make something called, it's like an anchor point. It's a vector point. I just click once. And so now you see that we have the first point is now green and the second point is now red. So now I'm going to start marching along. And I can even go further with a straight line. And I'm just drawing a shape with my mouse here. There are no limits to the number of vector points you can add. I'm just doing this fast for demonstration purposes. Okay, so now I've completed a shape. To finish it, I'm going to double click. Now the shape is highlighted in blue. All right, so we've been editing. We probably want to save our work. So we're going to go back to the editor here, and we're going to go down to save edits. Okay. If you are happy with your shape, you can do stop editing and the blue will go away. So now you've made your own shapefile. Okay. All right. That's how you do that. That was a little complicated. So I'm going to let you loose for the next 20 minutes of class on this lab to see how you go. Yes. Oh, no. Okay. Let's go over here. So it's you got in your catalog, do you have something like this where it says like Alaska? It's kind of tiny. Okay. So there should be a plus sign next to it. And it's going to come up with like the name of the worksheet. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, go after that one. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the key of the one. So it's that kind of. Yeah, so. And then basically. Then you're stating. You keep your research. And then you. So like this is the data. This is the give I want like make it. And that would be yes. You're gonna put it. Yeah, so choose for me to and then I'm kind of doing that. Okay. Down the bottom. Okay, so now we have your profile. And that proper now. It has to be. Like you all have fun. Yeah, I just realized that I put my shirt on set up. Fix that for winter. It's okay. It's a certain age, you're like, this is just on brand.
Yeah.
Next on that. Go back. So the list, and so you want to say you want you want all your new connected files to be in this. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They're like, the projection is like, I don't know. So like, they're all, like a Georgia system is designed to restore, to minimize the stuff. Right. Like, this part is right, yeah. And then this part here is the main. So, and like figure out, you know, what we've done. You know, what we did, it's like on the lab, and then there's some guidance. Oh, no, it's like safe for the box. What you've done. Still I do, and I have started working. Well, like, don't be afraid, don't have to like try them out. You know, you're not gonna break. It's true. Some of them might not work at all. You want to save this? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so what is yours? That's it. Love added.
Yeah, because it does that.
I don't know. I like to do this. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
So when you do this,
No, it's not. What if you? Let's try. So, bless you.
it could not be one thing. It could just be religion. Like as the point is the exact same like she's like just stacking from
Well.
I think that might be the same. But which one would be?
Okay.
So. Probably confirm it. We want to distract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like yeah. So. All right, guys, we are unfortunately at time. Bye, Carlos. Have a great afternoon.